Hello and welcome to Weekly News Highlights. Let's begin with the keywords that made headlines this week. After weeks of preparation, the presidential office is now in the final phase of its return to Cheongwade, the Blue House. The presidential press corps has also relocated. South Korea set a new record for foreign visitors this year, surpassing a pre-pandemic high set in 2019. The milestone was celebrated at Incheon International Airport, highlighting the growing global pool of K-culture. Christmas in Seoul this year was marked by seasonal cheer with festive markets and glowing light displays, bringing warmth and energy to the city throughout the holiday. Senior security officials from Seoul and Washington have held talks on how to implement top-level agreements with a focus on accelerating bilateral cooperation on nuclear-powered submarines. A U.S. delegation is set to visit South Korea early next year. Our top office correspondent Yoon Jung-min reports.
Following a recent trip to Washington, National Security Advisor Ri Sung-rak noted that South Korea and the U.S. have agreed to pursue a separate agreement for bilateral cooperation for Seoul to build nuclear-powered submarines. He held a press briefing on Wednesday, saying that he had in-depth talks with his American counterpart, Marco Rubio, and U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright for follow-up measures to the allies' joint fact sheet.
When it comes to the reprocessing of spent fuel and uranium enrichment, I explained the fact that our president has emphasized his will for non-proliferation multiple times. We also stressed that it amounts to bilateral strategic cooperation for energy security.
With the current bilateral nuclear energy pact banning the transfer of nuclear material for military purposes, the top security advisor mentioned the case of Australia being granted an exception in acquiring nuclear-powered submarines. He also noted that Seoul does not consider securing highly enriched uranium to fuel a sub. Instead, it plans to use low-enriched uranium. A U.S. delegation will visit Korea early next year for working-level consultations to speed up the process. On top of that, resuming dialogue with North Korea was high on the agenda as he met UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in New York.
With various diplomatic opportunities in mind for the first half of next year, we discussed ways to cooperate with the U.S. to resume dialogue with North Korea.
When asked, the official said no discussion was made on whether to adjust the Seoul-Washington joint military exercises to bring Pyongyang back to the negotiating table. We also visited Canada and Japan in time for his U.S. trip, where he discussed defense partnership with Ottawa as Seoul seeks to take part in its diesel submarine project, and shared consensus with Tokyo on continuing the so-called shuttle diplomacy at the top level. When it comes to the recent controversy over what's seen as friction within government ministries over North Korea policy, we remained tight-lipped, saying that it's undesirable to publicly reveal confusion, as he stressed the importance of coordination. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
After weeks of preparations, the presidential office is entering the final phase of its return to Cheongwade, the Blue House. The presidential press corps has also relocated, with live briefings taking place there for the first time in over 3 years. Our correspondent Song Yoo-jin tells us more.
For the first time in years, cameras are getting a rare look inside the Yongsan presidential office, where workers are moving wrapped furniture out of the building. The destination? Cheongwade, also known as the Blue House. After more than 3.5 years, South Korea's top office is heading back to its former home, just behind Gyeongbokgung Palace in downtown Seoul.
The presidential office will now leave the Yongsan era behind and return to the Blue House, the place where the president originally was and belongs.
Returning to Cheongwade was one of President Lee's key campaign pledges.
청와대를 신속하게 좀 보수해서 그대로 다시 들어가는 게 제일 좋겠다.
He has argued that the compound is better equipped with established security, protocol, and diplomatic infrastructure, making it more cost-efficient and operationally effective. The previous Yoon Suk-yeol administration relocated the presidential office to the Defense Ministry compound in 2022, saying that Cheongwade symbolized an overly centralized imperial presidency distant from the public. Since August, Cheongwade has been closed to visitors so it could undergo renovation work in preparation for the return. So, what will the revived presidential compound look like? The layout itself remains largely unchanged. The main building houses the president's office and reception rooms. Yeomingwan buildings 1 through 3 serve as offices for his aides. There is also the Yeongbingwan State Guest House, the Chunchugwan Press Center, and the presidential residence. What will change is how the space is used. President Lee plans to work primarily from Yeomingwan rather than the main building to streamline communication and decision-making. The presidential residence, however, will not be used immediately as additional refurbishment is required. Most of the relocation is expected to be completed around Christmas, with President Lee likely to begin officially commuting to Cheongwade from his current residence in Hannam-dong toward the end of the year.
The Lee administration says that moving back to the Blue House will not mean a return to its old image, which was often criticized as closed and authoritarian. Officials say they plan to expand online live streams of President Lee's official engagements, as well as minimize security restrictions around the area. And while access will be limited, the administration plans to reopen Cheongwade to visitors next year. 송유진, Arirang News.
South Korea saw an increase in the number of births in October, marking the 16th straight month of on-year growth. The rise comes as marriages continue to trend upward, though experts caution that the pace of recovery may be slowing. An Sung-jin has the details.
South Korea in October saw a rise in the number of births on year for the 16th consecutive month. According to the data ministry on Wednesday, the number of newborns in October 2025 reached 21,958. That's a 2.5% increase compared to the same month last year. It also marks the highest number for the month of October since 2020. The cumulative number of newborns from January to October this year stands at nearly 213,000, a 6.5% increase from the same period last year. The numbers dipped in 2023, figures began recovering in 2024. If the current momentum continues, 2025 as a whole may mark the second consecutive year of growth. An official from the data ministry said that as the number of marriages has been in an upward trend for 19 consecutive months, the number of newborns may have also been positively affected. One expert noticed something similar but offered caution.
Childbirths and marriages that were postponed during the COVID-19 pandemic are resuming, but what's noteworthy is that the birth rate is gradually slowing. This might suggest that the momentum for postponing childbirths is fading.
October saw nearly 20,000 marriages, a slight increase of 0.2% on year. Meanwhile, the total fertility rate, the average number of children a woman is expected to have in her lifetime, rose to 0.81 in October, an increase of 0.02 from a year earlier. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
South Korea's exports are on the rise, and December's latest figures are no exception. The upbeat numbers are fueling optimism for the country's economic outlook. Our Park Won-woo has the latest numbers.
South Korea's exports for this month through December 20th reached a record high for the same period of any year due to strong chip shipments. According to data from the Korea Customs Service on Monday, outbound shipments totaled $43 billion, up 6.8% on year. The previous record was set last year when exports exceeded $40 billion, but that figure was surpassed once again in 2025. Semiconductors led the gains, jumping more than 40% on year, while wireless communication devices and computer peripherals also posted solid increases. By destination, exports to China and Vietnam rose overall, but the US, one of Korea's 3 major exporting countries, saw a shrink due to Washington's tariff policies. With exports continuing to rise, the industry ministry says the country is likely to exceed the government's annual target of $700 billion, which would mark the highest export total ever for South Korea. As of December 20th, exports had already surpassed $683 billion, leaving just around $16 billion more to meet the goal. Last year, Korea recorded more than $21 billion in exports during the final 11 days of December, and with exports again hitting record highs, similar momentum is expected this year. One expert says exceeding the target would be significant, but warns there are risks to sustaining the momentum.
Questionable whether we will still be able to keep up this export momentum next year because we're not sure if the AI investments will continue and Korea will be hit with tariffs next year. even though it was less than what we expected at the beginning of 2025.
The expert also stressed the importance of diversifying Korea's trading partners.
Need to strengthen its trading relationship with countries other than the United States. United States, I think, will be, for the near future, they will try to maintain their current trade barriers. So Korea needs to reach out and expand exports with other countries.
But he added that strengthening the domestic economy is equally important, noting that most job creation and economic growth stem from within the country. A balance, he says, will be key to sustaining long-term growth. 박건우, Arirang News.
U.S. President Donald Trump has announced plans to build a new class of battleships, envisioning them as part of his Golden Fleet that would boost naval power in line with a broader shipbuilding initiative with South Korea's Hanwha Ocean. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump announced plans to build a new series of battleships as part of a Golden Fleet to be built for the U.S. Navy. This announcement was made during a press conference on Monday local time from his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida.
As Commander-in-Chief, it's my great honor to announce that I have approved a plan for the Navy to begin the construction of two brand new, very large, largest we've ever built, battleships. It'll be the fastest, the biggest, and by far 100 times more powerful than any battleship ever built.
The Trump-class USS Defiant ships, weighing between 30,000 and 40,000 tons, will be heavily armed with hypersonic missiles, nuclear cruise missiles, railguns, and high-powered lasers. The construction is expected to begin soon, with Trump saying they will be operational in 2.5 years. He said the project would begin with the construction of two such battleships, which will eventually be expanded to encompass 20 to 25 new vessels. As part of his Golden Fleet plan, Trump also mentioned the Navy's construction plan for a new class of frigates, for which the U.S. will work with a Korean company, namely Hanwha. Referring to Hanwha's investment of over $5 billion, more than 7 trillion Korean won in its Philadelphia shipyard, Trump said the once great closed shipyard has now been reopened and is working with the U.S. Navy and private companies. When asked about the battleship's mission, Trump said it was not to counter China but everybody and to secure peace through strength. In fact, one expert said that although the Golden Fleet could be part of efforts to deal with China's growing naval capabilities, the announcement was more for domestic political consumption.
One of Trump's key slogans is the revival of manufacturing. I think the domestic political message behind this is even stronger, especially at a time when Trump's approval ratings are steadily declining. It seems he believes this could help create some momentum for a rebound.
He added that building these new naval vessels alone would be somewhat insufficient in containing China's maritime rise. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
North Korea has once again raised tensions on the Korean peninsula, conducting a test of new surface-to-air missiles on Christmas Eve. The launch was observed by leader Kim Jong-un, who later inspected a nuclear-powered submarine project. Park Jun has this report.
North Korea announced two major military developments on Thursday, further escalating military tension on the Korean peninsula. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff announced on Thursday that the military had detected launch signs in advance and tracked several presumed surface-to-air missiles fired from the Sondok area in Gangneung-do province around 5 p.m. on Wednesday toward the East Sea. Observed by North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, Pyongyang conducted the first test of a new type of high-altitude, long-range surface-to-air missile system over the East Sea. Kim congratulated those who participated in the test, which was presented as a standard procedure to enhance the country's air defense capabilities. While a joint analysis with U.S. intelligence is underway, the Joint Chiefs of Staff stressed its robust allied deterrence posture against any potential provocations by the North. Also on Thursday, Kim Jong-un visited a shipyard that is allegedly constructing an 8,700-ton nuclear-powered strategic guided missile submarine. The North Korean state-run Korean Central News Agency quoted Kim as sharply criticizing South Korea's plan to develop nuclear-powered submarines. Kim said the plan, under the approval of the U.S., would further destabilize the Korean peninsula. He described the move as an aggressive act that seriously infringes on North Korea's national security and maritime sovereignty, adding that Pyongyang views it as a security threat that must be met with a response. Kim's observation of the missile tests and visiting the nuclear submarine project were widely seen as efforts to reiterate to South Korea and the United States that denuclearization is impossible. It also serves as a way to highlight deterrence capabilities through propaganda, claiming progress in building submarines with long-endurance submerged operations and nuclear strike capabilities. 박주단, Arirang News.
North Korea has reportedly opened 5 hotels near Paektusan Mountain as part of plans to promote tourism and bring much-needed foreign currency. Yoonjin reports.
North Korea's state-run news agency KCNA reported on Tuesday that opening ceremonies were held over 2 days for 5 newly inaugurated modern hotels in the Paektusan Mountain area. In the Samjiyon Tourism District, 2 hotels were opened on December 20th and 3 more on December 21st. As this is part of leader Kim Jong-un's push to develop the area into an attractive mountainous tourist zone, he attended the events himself, touring the guest rooms, restaurants, and swimming pools. Kim expressed his satisfaction that all elements are at a high level. Praising the facilities for combining practicality, variety, and artistic design, he emphasized the utter importance of the service quality and staff professionalism that these hotels provide. The newly opened hotel appears to be equipped not only with a flashy exterior, but also with a range of facilities, including luxury guest rooms, banquet halls, a sauna, and an outdoor heated swimming pool. Kim also vowed to further transform Samjiyon into a model city representing the country's tourism culture. According to photos reported by the state media, there was signage labeled Press Center, suggesting that the hotel was designed with the possibility of hosting large-scale events or international academic conferences in mind. Also in the photos, Kim's daughter Chue accompanied her father to the inauguration ceremonies. With the exception of some 880 Russian tourists to North Korea throughout the year of 2024, it wasn't until early 2025 when limited international tourism was reopened after the North's borders had been completely sealed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Earlier this year, in July, another tourism site was launched along the eastern coast of North Korea, the maritime seaside Wonsan-Galma Coastal Tourist Zone. Kim Jong-un's growing push for tourism in North Korea is in line with the regime's efforts to secure much-needed foreign currency amid international sanctions. 이은진, Arirang News.
The last day of the year is just around the corner, less than a week to go, and this year downtown Seoul is packed with exciting winter events. And to tell us more about them, we have our culture correspondent Park Geun-woo with us in the studio today. Welcome, Geun-woo.
It's great to be here, Sujin.
Right, so can you tell us about these winter events that are currently taking place?
So Sujin, as we're heading to the very end of 2025, Seoul City has prepared so many enjoyable events for people to unwind and enjoy the season. And I visited 2 of the city's major events myself, and one is one of the biggest Christmas markets called the Gwanghwamun Market near Gwanghwamun Square, of course, in central Seoul. Even though Christmas is over, this market will continue for several more days. So for those who missed it, now is another chance to visit. The scene feels totally like stepping into a Christmas fairy tale as inside the market it's bustling with visitors while hundreds of vendors sell everything from Christmas goods to local handmade items, including Rudolph-shaped candles, colorful wrapping cloths, and traditional lucky pouches. Photo spots are everywhere, like the big merry-go-round, which is especially popular with families with children.
It really feels like Christmas and is such a nice experience. There's so much for the kids to enjoy. The merry-go-round, photo spots, and even small things to buy.
An interesting twist is that these shops have been changing every week through the end of this month, giving visitors a magical chance to discover something new each time they come. And now through December 31st, the final edition is on display. An official from the host organization explains why it was so important to create this kind of event, especially at this time of year during the nighttime.
Winter is usually the off-season here, especially at night. But tourists still need things to see and enjoy after dark. That's why we created this, and we plan to expand it even further.
On site, there were visitors from across the globe, such as European tourists familiar with traditional Christmas markets back home.
We didn't realize that Christmas was quite so popular here. I certainly wasn't expecting to see a Christmas market. It's absolutely beautiful. The light show was fantastic. Everyone seems really happy.
And as night falls, the lights become even more dazzling. Just a short walk away, Cheonggyecheon Stream is glowing with its light festival running through early January. The displays are made of Korean traditional paper hanji, featuring illuminated sculptures that blend tradition with modern design. One standout is the Pokemon character Magikarp, as it's gone viral on social media, drawing even more visitors. Together, the Gwanghwamun Market and Cheonggyecheon Light Festival have already attracted millions of visitors. And due to high popularity, operating hours have recently been extended by around an hour, and the Seoul Tourism Organization now aims to welcome 6 million visitors this season. And thanks to all of that, downtown Seoul's winter nights are feeling much warmer, brighter, and just a little more magical than ever before.
So I've also been hearing a lot about the Christmas markets, which are typically associated with Europe. So why have they become so popular here in Korea?
Yes, as you mentioned, Christmas markets have been growing popular in the country among Koreans in recent years, and one expert explains what's behind the trend.
As cultural globalization grows, more people are becoming familiar with Christmas traditions, boosting the appeal of related events. And today, travel doesn't always mean going far, as everyday spaces can offer new cultural experiences close to home.
But he added that more can be done to make the market more welcoming to a wider audience.
To be more meaningful, markets need to go beyond shopping. Hands-on experiences like games and food making can turn visitors into active participants.
And he added that incorporating K-content such as K-pop themes could help create a Christmas market experience unique to Korea, especially for visitors from abroad.
So other than the Christmas markets, I heard there's still other winter events that are taking place. Can you tell us about them?
Absolutely. So more winter events kicked off across the country and across the city's Seoul this month. At Hangang River Parks, a new snow sled park has opened, running through mid-February. Locations include Yeouido in central Seoul and Tuksum in the east part of the city. For details, viewers can check the website now on the screen. And an outdoor ice rink also opened at Seoul Plaza, so with admission costing less than $1, it's an affordable way to enjoy winter, especially if you're a big fan of ice skating. And I also want to recommend the New Year's Eve bell ringing ceremony at Bojinggak Pavilion located in Jongno-gu District, downtown Seoul, where large crowds gather on the last day of each year to wait for the bell ringing 33 times at midnight to welcome the new year. And Arirang News will be broadcasting the ceremony live, so stay tuned for it on the very last day of this year during our special newscast.
All right, Connie, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your year.
Same to you, Sujin. Thank you.
South Korea has welcomed a record number of foreign visitors so far this year, marking a major milestone for the tourism industry. A special event at Incheon International Airport celebrated the achievement. Our Kim Do-yeon has this report.
Charmaine Lee, a Singaporean national, walks through the gate at Incheon Airport and is surprised by an overwhelming greeting. This is because she just became 18,500,000th visitor to South Korea this year. This is the first time the nation has seen such a number. But for Charmaine, this isn't her first time in Korea.
So I kind of visit Korea once a year, so probably more than 10 right now.
This event came on Tuesday morning as according to the tourism ministry, the nation is expected to welcome even more foreign visitors this year, exceeding 18.7 million. The last record was set in 2019 prior to the COVID-19 pandemic at 17.5 million. But with COVID hitting the world in 2020, numbers fell and started picking up again until this peak this year.
With the global rise of popularity for K-culture, for many tourists, South Korea became a country to visit right now instead of a country to visit in the future.
The Vice Minister also attributed the strategic use of K-culture, global marketing, and market diversification. Especially with K-pop Demon Hunters, the government believes the numbers have gone up, but also the way Korea is toured has changed.
It shows in the numbers that K-pop Demon Hunters affect the nation's tourism. It also affects the quality of tourism. Before, it was more focused on duty-free spending, but now visitors focus on enjoying Korean culture here.
As for specific nationalities, China topped the list. Arrivals from China saw a sharp rise in July and August, driven by women in their 20s to 40s. Visitors from Taiwan increased by 27% on year, setting a new record for that market, while Japanese tourist numbers reached 3.61 million, the highest figure since 2012. Long-haul markets also showed strength, with visitors from the Americas and Oceania growing 14%, following the expansion of flight routes. The Vice Minister also added that next year's goal is 20 million and 30 million by 2030. He also said there is a long way to go, as most tourism is done in the capital region and the return rate is relatively low. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
The National Museum of Contemporary Art in South Korea also hit a record number of visitors this year, exceeding 3.37 million. According to the museum on Wednesday, the figure up to the 20th of this month saw a record high since its opening, a 15% increase compared to last year. Those in their 20s and 30s made up over 63% of the visitors, and the museum was the most crowded from 3 to 4 p.m. on weekends. Foreign visitors totaled more than 210,000, making up over 6% of the overall crowd. The most popular exhibition this year was a raw milk exhibition held at the Seoul branch, drawing the largest crowds. And that brings us to the end of Weekly News Highlights. Thank you for watching and enjoying the rest of your weekend.